Good afternoon. Shoot. Just a sec. This is a hearing of the Chatham Conservation Commission being held on April 9th, 2025, in accordance with the Massachusetts Wetlands Protection Act and the Town of Chatham Wetlands Protection Bylaw and regulations. My name is Karen Lattin, and I serve as the chair. Today's hearing is being broadcast live on Xfinity Channel 1072 and is being recorded for the on-demand archives available on the town's website. It is being conducted in person, by phone, and by video conference. The agenda, instructions on how to attend, and copies of documents for review are posted on the town's website. To all participants, whether attending by phone or online, please remain muted unless you've been recognized by the chair. When recognized, please identify yourself for the record. If you're attending by phone, you can mute and unmute by using *6. If you are online and you are not a commissioner, please keep your camera turned off unless you've been recognized. Indicate that you wish to speak by using the raised hand feature. So we have a record of a quorum. I will now ask each commissioner to indicate their presence. Vice Chair Elise Gordon.
Present.
Janet Williams.
Present.
Cheryl Meservey.
Present.
Eric Hilbert.
Present.
Bob Delvecchio.
Present.
Paul Johnson.
Present.
And I'm here, so we've established we have a quorum. Before we begin with the agenda, are there any public comments or requests for future agenda items?
I have one, if no one else out there has one. I would like to put the revisions to the special regulations for tree replacement onto the agenda for April 23rd.
Great. Okay, we will make sure that happens. Anybody else? Okay. Before we begin the agenda, Catherine, are there any announcements about any requests for continuances today?
There are no requests for continuances.
Okay, so at this point, Catherine Ricks, Chatham's Assistant Conservation Agent, will now lead us through the agenda.
We'll start with the request for an order of conditions at 16 Windmill Lane, map 16A, parcel H3 for Jane Chandler, Mass DEP SE 10-3723, elevate existing dwelling onto FEMA compliant foundation, proposed building addition, and new Title V subsurface sewage disposal system within land subject to coastal storm flowage.
How are you?
Good. David Clark Engineering. Lindsay Cook is also online. For the most part, I don't have any issues with the order. You do have those standard conditions regarding a revetment. There's no coastal bank here. It's a coastal dune, and you can't have a revetment on a coastal dune in Massachusetts. So I don't know if that's is an issue or not. And that's about it.
Okay, it does say if it's applicable, but
Yeah.
I am sure we will get that out.
Belt and suspenders, we'll take it out.
All right, anybody on the commission have any questions, comments, changes? All right.
Hold on, I just noticed it when I was going down toward the end. The conditions from Natural Heritage, are they in here twice?
Yes.
Ah, okay. Do we need them at the end? If they're already in special,
They should probably just be in special
yeah, you can
heritage.
shorten this by a page if we take them out.
Yes, oh, I just noticed that too, sorry.
That's okay. Just shortened it to 16 pages.
Anything else?
Anybody have anything? All right, then I think we can go to a motion.
I move that we close the hearing on 16 Windmill Lane and approve the order of conditions with revisions.
Second.
Okay, Cheryl?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And I say aye. So you're all
Thank you.
set. Thank you.
I'm going to stay for them.
I figured you're just going to stay there. Go ahead, Catherine.
Request for an order of conditions at parcel H13 Captain Knowles Way, map 11C, parcel H13 for Minglewood Homes Incorporated, Mass DEP SE 10-3722, construction of a harbor access stairs over a coastal bank.
All right.
David
So
Clark, for the
this
record again.
one,
This one, I don't see anything that's a red flag for us. However, I was out there yesterday with Tim Smith, and he wants to do some view pruning. And I look back at the order for the house, and there's no language in there about coming back to the commission. So I don't know how we deal with that, with a third filing for this property, or can we leave this open? And he's got 4 or 5 pines that he wants to limb the dead wood off, and 1 oak, I think that he wants to take 2 or 3 branches off of. So I don't know if that can be done on an administrative review, or do we need to imagine?
So,
Can I just, they're not within the scope of this, the stairway?
No, it's not.
They're sort of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just hate to file a third notice of intent.
Yeah. I think that can be
Property.
done by AR.
Well, we can vote on it. I think,
well, let's hear what Catherine says.
An AR cannot be within a resource area.
So,
Could
The
you do
dead-
an
the dead-
amendment to the,
To the original order?
yeah, I guess, yeah. I mean, all the dead wood's in the buffer zone, so it's not in,
that could be done by an AR.
yeah, but the.
But if
one
anything's
oak
within the
tree-
resource area,
Yeah,
would have
the
to
oak tree, the live oak with the branches is right at the top of the bank, so that, all right. That's fine with me. I just wanted some direction.
Okay,
Oh, we'll-
Jen, did you have anything to add?
Yes, hi. For the record, Jen Crawford. I actually have just something that I'd like clarified on page 11E. It's at the beginning of the order. It's hold on one second. I just want to make sure it's the right one. It's number 8, where we're talking about your standard condition to permanently mark the edge of the mitigation area. In this particular case, the mitigation that we proposed for the stairs is actually kind of an isolated island area within the whole naturalized buffer zone and at the top of the bank. So I just wanted to ask about that because it doesn't really seem, it seems like it's just kind of a silly thing to mark in the middle of the woods. Does that make sense?
It is on the bank into the woods, not adjacent to any
Right.
landscaped areas.
Just around the stairs?
Yes.
Is there any reason, any incursion that could happen there that,
I mean, you'd have to go all the way through the 50-foot buffer to get there.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
right, but wouldn't have any landscapers accessing this area for any purpose?
For no reasonable
Other than
land.
taking care of the mitigation plants, yeah.
Yeah.
Right, that's correct. Because
I
it's not
think-
adjacent to a landscaped area or a lawn area or anything like that.
Yeah, the whole point is that this is going over the area, not disturbing anything.
Right,
So
Yeah,
we don't
I
want to
think
disturb
it's
it to make it
okay.
not be
okay,
disturbing.
this is.
I think an AR would work, as long as it's not in the resource area, it's.
No, this is taking this
Taking it
out,
out.
taking out
Oh,
this
I'm
condition.
sorry, you were
right.
on the other part, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, yeah, we
Yeah,
can
removing the
remove that.
mitigation area.
Yeah. It would just be like, it would be really weird to have a single rail, split rail fence, like for a 15
Yeah,
foot section along
in the
road.
middle.
We'd rather a fence not go
This
there,
precious little
actually.
area.
Correct.
Okay.
But I just wanted to make
It's
sure, 'cause
gone.
sometimes, you know how this goes, it's years
Sure
later
is.
when it comes in for compliance and then there's confusion about it. So I just wanted to bring it up because I thought that maybe it was a step for this particular order that could be skipped.
No, it's already out. Anything else?
Awesome. No, that's all I had.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any commissioners, Bob?
I had something for special condition number 6. It should read, applicant shall provide nourishment and install native plants in the area of existing scarping.
Okay,
Okay, thank you.
got that. Nothing else? Anybody? And we are ready for a motion, please.
I move that we close the hearing on Captain Knowles Way, parcel H13, and approve the order of conditions as revised.
Second.
Okay, I'm going to start this side. I'm giving you a warning. Bob?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl,
Approved. I mean,
and I say aye.
Thank you.
Okay, the next one, please, Catherine.
Request for an order of conditions at 27 Strong Island Road, map 12M, parcel 16-B19 for William C. Benjamin, Mass DEP SE 10 3726. Replacement of existing patios and walkways with dry-laid ashlar blue and dry-laid brick, reconfigure patio steps and landscape improvements.
How are you?
Good, how are you all?
Good. I did receive, just before the meeting, your comments on the order. So I will go through them one at a time so that the commissioners can also hear. On page 11C, which
The
is,
second 11C, there seem to be two of them.
oh, there are? Do we? Oh, yeah. Second, you say, does the prohibition on clearing vegetation between April 1 and September 1 apply to the removal of the shrubs and trees of this project?
You skipped ahead a number of the comments.
Oh,
No
where's
one-
the,
Number one. is
Number
the
one,
pear tree.
oh, I'm sorry. Correct, the state of the pear tree will be replaced with a native American holly and sweet bay magnolia. So.
that was part of the revised plan.
Right. So we can change that. It's number 3, American holly, and it says American holly and a sweet bay magnolia will be planted in,
That's a tough spot for a magnolia.
oh, it's, the description is where you're having a problem with, see, we pull the description right out from what you send.
Yeah, but then
So-
that was revised.
Yes, I understand, but that's why that was there.
Holly and sweet pea magnolia.
Sweet bay magnolia.
You get a northeast wind through there and that magnolia is gonna get hammered.
It's actually pretty protected by a large spruce tree.
Oh, that's good, yeah.
Copy that and put it down in the findings.
It is down in the findings, it says an American holly and a sweet magnolia will be planted as replacement for one pear tree. Okay, then, on 11D, number 2, finding, qualify that the roots of the removed beech plums will remain and add periodic pruning of the remaining beech plums is permitted. It's permitted, do you need what's permitted under? Pruning is permitted under CWPR sections 4.01, paren 6, paren E, paren 3, and 5.01, paren 4, paren A. So,
It's more trimming than pruning, right? You're trimming them,
but it is permitted.
right?
With permission, though.
With
Not-
permission.
You have to have, somebody has to give you permission. Usually, it can be done by administrative review by the agent. It doesn't, no
Yes.
one has just carte blanche to go ahead and prune.
So, could we change the periodic pruning of the remaining beech plums will be permitted with approval from the conservation agent?
I thought we were getting approval here as part of the,
Not for pruning to go forward.
Whenever you're pruning and trimming, you have to call the agent and just say, I'm
To show
gonna
that,
trim now, and, you know, they say, okay. They might say, send a picture before and after, or something simple.
okay?
all right.
Where is it?
Number 2,
Special condition?
I think it's
in findings, number 2.
it's in findings, number 2.
It says to mitigate for the impacts for number 2.
Roots of the removed beech plums will remain and allowed to decompose. He would also like it to say, where'd I find it?
Well, that should be a condition, not a finding.
It's also in conditions
Yeah, let's put it there.
that he would just like to add that there can
Ah,
be
there it is. Okay.
pruning,
We'll make it new special condition 8,
yeah.
pruning of the remaining
Okay.
peach plums is permitted with the
What? It already says that the roots will remain.
Yeah, the roots, I got that.
Is that what they're pruning, is the roots?
No,
No.
so it's a different, I made it a new, I've made it a new eight.
No,
Pruning
the remaining
beach
beach
plums is permitted
plums.
with the prior approval
Yeah,
of the
I
eight.
misunderstood.
Okay. Okay, we already, number 3 that you sent is identical to number 2, which is dealing with the pruning. So we've got that in the findings because it was repeated in the findings, so you've done that. Okay,
So it'll be repeated in the special.
yeah.
Yeah.
So now on page 11I, which I'm not sure what that is. 11I, H.
Standard conditions.
It's under the conditions for demolition, construction, site disturbance, and drainage, that section.
Yeah.
It says, does the prohibition on clearing vegetation between April 1 and September 1 apply to the removal of the shrubs and trees of this project? I have to look at what it says. Did you say which number?
3.
Number 3. Did not have time to print everything. Clearing of any vegetation, grubbing of the work site in or within the 100 feet of the wetlands. That pertains to, well, it is a site disturbance when you take them out.
Yeah, just cut them down immediately, before the birds start nesting.
First, when are you thinking of doing this, doing the
Yeah,
removal?
It seems like we're going to be delayed yet again because of the need for a special permit from the zoning board.
right.
Oh,
So maybe we could see when you finally get that approval. What we're doing today is we're going through so it'll be ready for you, but maybe we hold that one out before we correct it, change anything, and see when it is that you get the approval. And at that point, you'll have better idea of when you want to do this work. How about that? Because if we change it right now, that's why Janet was asking when you wanted to do this work. If it were something we could approve today, you might say, I will have it done by April 30th. And we could say from May 1 through September 1. But since you don't know, have you filed? I didn't see that it has been filed. Okay. Since you don't know when you'll be heard, we're probably to June at this point with ZBA, I think. Yeah, easily. Maybe, they seem to not be quite so far out right now. But I think we'll be talking about June, so at that time, we could visit that.
Okay.
Okay. On page 11K, number 3, qualify that non-native plants are permitted within the outer aura if accompanied by native plants at a 1-to-3 ratio. Okay, 11K, number 3.
Number 3 currently says all plants installed within the resource area, including the aura, shall be native species. So that's inconsistent with the regulations as they now are.
Right. We could change it to 75% of
what number is it?
3
All plants,
installed within any resource area.
okay, within the resource area and the no disturb zone. Or,
All plants within the outer aura shall be. I think we have to add within the NDZ then.
yeah.
Really? You don't have to plant all Indigenous?
Within the NDZ,
yeah.
you do have to have
Yeah, right.
100%. That's why we're going to have to specify NDZ versus outer Aurora.
Okay, we'll just say within the disturbed zone. It would help if I could spell that. Shall be native species, and then say, is this in the template, do we have to fix this?
Yeah, we'll have to fix it.
Plants installed within the outer aura, right? Shall be. at least
I'll fix the
75
template after the meeting.
native species.
Okay. Then, we're almost done. Given that the project is limited to relatively minor landscaping changes, is it necessary that I engage a qualified consultant / contractor approved by the commission, which is 11G number 2, and a site superintendent, 11H number 8?
All right. I think that's overkill. Well, they could have the.
For this project, we can change that. Okay. And then,
11G number 2,
I'll go to the next because it's a question.
okay.
It's not a change. You're asking if we can issue the permit now on a conditional basis, subject to receipt of the special permit from ZBA, so that the appeal period can start to run in the meantime.
Right.
We cannot. Because in case anything changes, then you can't do anything until you have ZBA's approval anyway. And then if anything changed, you'd have to come back to us and go through this process again and file an amended order. So it adds actually to your work if anything happened to change. So as a rule, we just do not issue ours. We can send them a letter that says that this is approvable as presented to us, and they will know that it's ready to go for us, but we need their approval. So that's what we can do for that.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so, well, I don't know when we continue it to, because we don't have a date for ZBA yet.
I don't have plans from my builder for the ZBA, so.
Yeah. So,
Maybe the first meeting in June?
yeah, that's what I was going to say, that is June 4th.
Through the chair.
Yes.
At this point, I know ZBA is out till June 12th, based on
Oh,
another
perfect.
project comment.
Thank you. So that would be June 25th is the earliest. So,
So that definitely means you'll have to wait on cutting the
yeah,
beach plum down.
you can't, nothing can be done till that approval, unfortunately. So if we could have a motion to continue this for the order until June 25th?
I move that we continue 27 Strong Island Road to June 25th, 2025 for an order of conditions.
Second?
Cheryl?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Bob?
Aye.
And I say aye. Sorry, I forgot to ask, did any commissioners have any? I mean, we can bring them up at the next, but anyway. No.
Get another bite at the apple.
Yes, thank you.
All right, thank you.
I'm totally bollocks today. Okay, Catherine, the next, please.
Okay, we have a field change request at 227 Vineyard Avenue, map 11C, parcel D131 for Ann Azanaro, Mass DEP SE 10 3471, garage addition and invasive species control. This after-the-fact field changes for an extension to an existing low-native New England fieldstone wall for stabilization of the garage foundation and to protect from erosion caused by wind, extreme high tides, and stormwater runoff. Applicant requests to withdraw this request without prejudice. The retaining wall and the fill have been removed, and the area has been restored to comply with the order of conditions as issued.
I move that we withdraw the request for a field change request for 227 Vineyard Avenue without prejudice.
Amen. I second.
Bob,
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Elise,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Cheryl,
Aye.
and I say aye. Sorry they had to go through all that. We've continued this like 10 times, so. Next one, Catherine.
We have a notice of intent at 30 Pine Lane, map 13J, parcel 6-G12B from Michael Tuya Lynch, Mass DEP SE 10 3716, proposed screen porch, sunroom, and deck addition within the 50-foot buffer zone to a fragmented coastal bank and 100-foot buffer to a BVW. Invasive plant management, native plant restoration, lawn reduction, mitigation plantings, and kayak rack.
And for the record, I will be recusing myself since these are friends of mine. So obviously.
So I will be driving the bus. Okay. Hello, Teresa.
Hello, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Teresa Sprague with Blue Flax Design, here on behalf of Mike and Toya Lynch, and Mr. Lynch is joining us online. Before we start, I do want to point something out that just came to my attention right before, as I was preparing for this hearing. So we received the updated site plans. We changed our plans to match the updated site plan from the engineer. We did not receive an updated coverage calculations table from the engineer. So if you look at our plan still has the same coverage calculations table on it. The engineered plans that we submitted does have some updated coverage calcs, but they are not in your table format that you like. So we did go ahead just before the hearing and put those calculations into a table format. We also broke them out similar to the way the engineer is showing them based on the bordering vegetated wetland and the buffer zones to that resource area, as well as the fragmented coastal bank. So with your permission, could we just pass these out? I don't think this is new information, it's just making the information a little more clear in your format.
Absolutely.
So just as a review, because it's been quite a while since we were last at this hearing, this project proposes to remove an existing deck to the north of the house, to add or expand a deck that's existing on the east side of the house, and to expand an existing deck just to the south of that and build a sunroom in the footprint of that deck with a minor expansion. With those proposed increases in structure, we are proposing just over 18,000 square feet of mitigation in the form of invasive species management and restoration, and in the form of removing non-native cool season velvet grass from an existing meadow-like area and actually transitioning that into a native grass and wildflower meadow. We're proposing to remove all of the lawn on the east side of the house and plant that all out with native vegetation. And we are proposing to remove some non-native trees as well as a couple of hazard pitch pines that will be replanted at greater than 2-to-1. So the changes that have been made and the updates to the plan include the previously proposed deck on the north side of the house has been removed. And now they are proposing a dry-laid patio in that area. They have decreased the overall size of the proposed deck expansion on the east and the proposed size of, and decreased the size of the proposed sunroom just to the south of that. I should have pointed out at the beginning that we have the resource areas on the site include a bordering vegetated wetland. And then we do have a coastal bank which is fragmented because it is based on the flood elevation and the topography of this site. So the coastal bank actually runs on the south a little bit lower, and then there is an existing retaining wall to the west on the north side of the property. And so there is no coastal bank area, and then it jumps up just along that because of the changes in topography and the steepness of that area where that retaining wall is located. We did discuss at the last hearing the possibility of removing that retaining wall, but when we looked back and did some further analysis on that, we do think that the amount of disturbance required to remove that retaining wall would be greater than the benefit we would gain from removing that retaining wall, so we are not proposing to remove the retaining wall at this time. There is an existing concrete pad at the walkout, which is underneath the deck that is now proposed to be transitioned into the sunroom. We are proposing to remove that concrete pad from that area because it will continue to be under the deck. In that area where it's currently located under the deck, we would be proposing to use gravel or pea stone just to allow for water infiltration in that area. And then the portion of the deck that would be expanded would be planted out with the Pennsylvania sedge and the crinkle hair grass that's proposed to be planted throughout what we're calling sort of the walkway areas. We are proposing to maintain access to Frostfish Creek with a mowed path through the meadow area. And we are proposing a kayak rack down along that just outside of the bordering vegetated wetland to allow access for paddle boards or kayaks. The other thing that we've done is we have not decreased the number of trees, but we have shifted the locations of some of the trees based on the abutters' request that we not block any of the existing views. This is quite a heavily canopied site, so I think that rather than having a row of cedar trees, which is what we were proposing along the southern property line, we've opened that up a little bit so that they may gain some views to the river across the meadow area of this property. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions. We have an overall decrease. Again, we've got a little bit, one of the things that I noted on the engineer's plan is with the removal of the concrete pad, he included the complete removal of the concrete pad, but because we're proposing to keep some gravel or pea stone in that area, we did not include that in our coverage calcs. So while we will be changing that from an impervious surface to a permeable surface, it's still structure as far as it's not a vegetated area, so we did not include that in our coverage calculations table that I just handed out, but did want to make clear that we will be removing the impervious material and using permeable material underneath that decking. So happy to answer any questions about the overall plan and the changes that have been made.
I have a quick one.
Okay?
Rinse station is not marked on the new plan. It's on your plan, but it's not named, and it's not on the, as far as I can tell, it's not on the engineering plan.
I believe the rinse station is located on the, just to the north of the, where it says Lot 46.
Yeah, it's
on the
not, it's
plan.
on yours, but it's not named,
Okay,
and it's not on the engineer's.
okay, that's something we can definitely add and make sure that that is shown on the engineer's site plan and that it's located. Thank you for pointing that out. I
Thank
did
you.
not realize that. Thanks.
Thank you, Cheryl. I had that too. Paul?
On the coverage calculation table.
Put your microphone on.
Sorry. On the coverage calculation table that you just handed us,
Yes,
the area of structures,
yes.
the proposed versus the existing, I calculate as 370, not 327.
For which one? So we've tried to break it down into
The
BVW and.
BVW.
Okay, so you've got, oh, I'm sorry, so the existing, so there's an increase.
It says 327, but I get 370.
Okay, the 541 and the 171?
Yes.
Okay, I think Mike, who's on this, is going to be checking his math right now. Sorry, I did not do the math on this, so, but I will check that and we can correct that, my apologies.
Is that it, Paul?
Yes.
Okay,
Quick question.
go for it.
So with this new coverage calculation, what about the one that's on the revised planting plan? Is that coming off?
That's going to come off.
Okay.
It needs to be updated. And we have this situation, again, where we've got this fragmented coastal bank and the BVW and the 50-foot and 100-foot buffer zones overlapping. So for it to fit into the format that's provided with the Chatham NOI checklist, we've had to break it down into two different, because right now, the proposed patio is outside of the buffer zone of the 100-foot, the outer aura to the BVW, but because that fragmented coastal bank jumps up because of that artificial retaining wall, it puts it within the 50-foot buffer of that fragmented coastal bank.
Right, right. I sympathize with the complexity of calculating all of these.
Yeah, and just making sure that it's clear in the format that,
Right.
yes.
No, I just want to make sure that the tables that are going to be stamped onto the approved plans are consistent with.
Will be what we just handed out to
Okay,
you, yes.
got it. Okay, thank you.
Yep.
That it?
I was writing notes in the very beginning, and I missed the explanation about the railroad tie wall.
So I believe at the beginning, at the first hearing, there was a question of whether or not that retaining wall could be removed, and we did say we would take a look at that. But in looking at it further, it seems that the amount of disturbance required to remove that retaining wall would be greater than the benefit that we would gain for that, because there is existing native vegetation in there that would have to be dug out and removed. And so I think that the retaining wall itself is not a barrier to wildlife. It's not providing, or it's not preventing any, it's not doing anything as far as the land's ability to be a vertical buffer to floodwater. So we felt that leaving the retaining wall would be less disturbance, and then just removing the invasive vegetation and then replanting that entire top of that retaining wall, as well as restoring any areas below it that need to be restored.
Okay. Got it. That makes sense. Thank you.
Yep.
When I was on the commission from 2004 to 7, and on the commission now, I don't think I've ever seen a encroachment of construction in the no disturb zone, and to be mitigated by plants. From all I've ever seen is, like, if there was an old boardwalk heading down to the water, if there was a couple old sheds in the woods that could be mitigated and torn down, and the square footage traded for encroachment of a construction of a building in the no disturb zone, that's acceptable. The town had voted, the taxpayers of this town voted that to have a no disturb zone. And it's, I don't like to say NDZ, a lot of people don't even know what it means. It's called no disturb zone for a reason. That's the only reason. I mean, you said you were gonna have an engineer to look at the wall to see if it can be done, whether it's structural damage to the bank, and whether it's a inconvenience. It would be mitigation for non-pervious to trade for encroachment in the no disturb zone. I've never seen it. Every time we've ever done plans, anything in the no disturb zone has to stay within the same footprint. Can't get any larger, and we don't care if it's 2 stories, 3 stories as far as conservation is concerned, but the footprint should not be any greater than the previous footprint whenever they tear houses down, or houses put it back. I just don't agree with it. Take it to a vote. You guys can go ahead and let it through, but I just think you start, allowing construction and additions in the no disturb zone, you're sending the wrong message for future applicants that are gonna come forward. Thanks.
So I guess there's 2 things that I have to say. That, again, we're dealing with two different resource areas. We're dealing with the bordering vegetated wetland, which we are outside of the no disturb zone for that particular resource area. Then we're dealing with this fragmented coastal bank, which does put us within the NDZ because it jumps up to this artificial retaining wall that was constructed probably when the house was constructed to provide some level area outside the back of the house. So that's one thing. And then we did apply for a variance with this, and we did provide an alternatives analysis. And we are providing mitigation at 18,000 square feet to 657 square feet of increase in structure. That includes removing all existing lawn from within the area, as well as all of the invasive vegetation, and then transferring this non-native grassland into a native grass and wildflower meadow. So we do believe that we are significantly improving and protecting the resource area with what we're proposing in mitigation so that it meets the variance criteria as far as a public benefit and protection of the resource area, better protecting the resource area. We did look at, again, at feasible alternatives. There is already existing structure within that 50-foot buffer zone to the fragmented coastal bank. Likely when this house was built, because the FEMA elevations changed back in 2014, this would not have been within the buffer zone to this fragmented coastal bank. This is based on the flood elevations again. So I just think it's difficult when we're trying to weigh this. I do not see that this project will adversely affect this bank's ability to act as a vertical buffer to floodwaters. The flood elevation on this site is, elevation, the engineer's plan's bigger than ours. The flood zone on this site is lower down, much lower down on the bank, located at the fragmented coastal bank at elevation 11. And we've got an AE zone 11, not a velocity zone. We've got an AE flood zone, and then behind that we have an X zone, so less than 1% chance of any area flooding above that. So this is not being proposed within any land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's being proposed well outside of the 50-foot buffer zone to the bordering vegetated wetland. There is already existing structure. They are proposing to expand this existing structure somewhat, but they're willing to mitigate this at the ratio that they're proposing to mitigate it at, which I think is a significant improvement to the resource area. In our land management plan, we've included on page 4 some photographs of the site. You can see the size of the bittersweet, so the level that this invasive vegetation is getting to. I think there is a great opportunity to restore this with a completely native plant community and better protect the coastal bank than its current conditions.
I have a couple, Teresa.
Okay.
Do you have any idea when it's going to go to ZBA?
Mr. Lynch may be able to answer that. I am not sure that this has been filed with ZBA yet, but Mike Lynch, if you know what the ZBA filing date is, would you share that with us, please?
Teresa, I don't know.
Okay.
I just got back from Spain yesterday.
Oh, sorry.
Haven't been in touch with Jamie. As of right now, I don't know.
Okay, so it likely will not be before the June 12th hearing, likely after that.
Okay.
Yep.
Welcome home, Michael.
Thanks.
Okay, a couple more things. Can we note on the plan the MOPATH? It's there, but it's not, I don't think it's indicated.
Oh, okay,
Is it labeled? We
yes.
need it labeled.
We will label that, yes.
Thank you. Access to the site, do we know where that is going to occur?
Yes, so right now, we can access both from the north and the south on this site. So in order to do this work, we will not, any of the invasive vegetation that we're removing on the bank itself will be done by hand and then winched into the area. So that would be the area below the retaining wall. So we would set up a small machine with a winch, cut and treat the invasive vegetation, winch it up out of the area. For the area where the meadow is going to be restored, it is not quite as steep in that area, so we will be able to have machine access. The idea would be to use a sod cutter to remove that velvet grass and try and get as much of that root material without disturbing the soil to the extent possible, and then allowing us to reseed that area. And then cover with chopped straw or blanket, depending on the time of year that we're doing the work.
Great.
Yep.
Thank you. The 2 cherry trees in the front yard,
Yes.
they're such healthy trees.
They are, and they're quite large, and the only reason that they're proposed for removal is because that canopy is spreading, it's almost touching the house. It doesn't allow any light penetration to the house, and they're having issues with mold and moss growing on the front of the house and on the roof. So they're just trying to open that up to get some air circulation in that area.
So pruning wouldn't make any sense?
I don't think so. It was really their desire to remove those trees. I'm sure if the commission felt very strongly that they would like to keep those trees, we could look at pruning them. I did not give them a close look at for pruning options.
Okay. Let's see, what else? Did we talk at one point about removing the double stairs?
We did talk about removing the double stairs, and I did speak to the property owners about that, and they would like to maintain those double stairs because it gives them access to the north side of the house from the deck, and then as well as giving them access down to allow them access to their footpath to the creek. So we did speak to them about that, and they did request to keep the double stairs if possible.
Okay. Bob, do you have anything?
A couple of things. Yeah, I was going to mention the stairs too, Teresa.
Okay.
I think it may be overkill. I mean, I think you have two ways to access that deck, so
Okay.
I'd like to see one of them gone myself, if that's possible. On the plant schedule,
Yes.
dwarf Fothergilla, it should be violet or purple on the plan.
You're right.
And it looks like
yes.
it's brown, like a
Yes.
light brown.
I think that's the way it's printing, so I will make
Okay.
sure that, I think it showed like that on the screen, but it's printing in that color, so I'll make sure that it prints properly.
And also oak leaf hydrangea, quercifolia,
Yes,
should be yellow, and it's dark brown, I believe, on
Okay.
the,
yep,
on the plan.
okay. I'll make sure that's corrected. Thank you.
And the path leading down to the water,
Yes.
what about demarcating that path?
So we tried to plant some shrubs in clusters around that path. You can see to kind of direct people in that area.
Yeah.
We could thicken that shrub planting up a little bit more to, I don't think they would like to do fencing. I think they'd prefer to use vegetation if possible. So we could absolutely thicken that shrub planting up so that we can continue to mow around it, just to keep the invasive vegetation out of there, but still very clearly mark where the path is going.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Yep.
That's all I had.
Teresa, one more thing on the access.
Yes.
We're going to need a letter from the abutter, I think, on that one? If there's any,
I don't think we should not be trespassing or off of this property at all. Yep. So we're entirely on the Lynch's property. The abutter to the south, they have an easement over that area on the east side of the property. They don't own that. That actually belongs to the property that's out on Route 28.
okay.
But we will not be accessing or need to access that area at all.
Anything else?
I just had one quick question.
Yep.
Did you work with the abutter on placing those cedars?
Well, we designed this so that they would have that view from their patio and their outdoor living space. So we moved and shifted. So previously, we had the cedars running all the way down the southern
Right.
property line.
Yeah.
And we've kept them, we've just shifted them and moved them into different locations so that we opened up that spot. The area to the north of that is really quite heavily vegetated, so we're thinking that that will gain them, potentially a little access over to Frostfish Creek. My understanding is they do have an easement over the property directly in front of their house, so they do have a full open water view. So this will allow them a little peekaboo up the creek.
But you didn't gather any feedback from them at all?
We haven't heard
after
from them
the-
since the original hearing, and they did have an opportunity to see this plan.
Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Great. Anything else? No? So, should we work toward an order of conditions timed with ZBA?
Well, I would like to vote on it and get voted out of this, so I have a good conscience. So if you guys want to vote on, I would like to vote on this, because I would vote no on this project.
I think-
Any encroachment whatsoever in a no-disturb zone, unless there's something to trade. There's nothing here to trade. If you remove the if you remove the restoration is a great bargain. It works good for the applicant, works good for conservation, it's a win-win. They get a view of the resource, and we get indigenous plantings. So if you remove the restoration, and then you get down to the mitigation, and that's really what you have to get down to, and I've never seen it before. I've never seen a mitigating in a no disturb zone unless you got something hard to mitigate with.
That, I'd like to respond to that, because that's been an issue for a long time that we've struggled with. You know, trying to say we want hardscape to change hardscape. So if you're going to put hardscape in the NDZ, you have to take hardscape out somewhere else in order to be, because otherwise vegetation is not permanent, hardscape is. And so, that ended up being not particularly feasible, because in a lot of situations, there's no hardscape to take out. And so that led us to changing our orders of condition to require that mitigation plantings are permanent.
And this is in the
perpetuity.
NDZ, encroachment in the NDZ on structures?
So that, and it stays on their title forever in perpetuity. That they have a obligation to, you know, take care of it, to remove invasives that come in there, and to ensure that the area survives. That's as close as you can get to permanent, and feeling that trade is at least a decent trade.
I've never seen in front of us so far encroaching building in new construction in no disturb zone.
I don't know. I'm struggling to think of it, but I do think that paring it back as much as possible, taking out one of the excess stairs, maybe pulling that proposed lower deck back a little bit more to, I do think we have one more round of revisions.
Okay.
Since ZBA is not pressing, we have the time to see if you can
Continue.
make a few more changes. We've got 519 square feet of incursion into the NDZ, which is a significant number. Now, I grant you that you've got 18,000 square feet of mitigation.
Yes.
Which is great, but to Eric's point, you know, 519 feet of structure in the NDZ is not something to approve lightly.
Okay.
So we'll go for a straight continuance. And one more question,
Sure.
Teresa.
Yes.
Work protocols,
We can provide a work protocol.
please?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. With that, then I would like to request a continuance. I probably need a couple of weeks just to write the work protocol and then speak with the clients, make these changes, make the revisions, get the engineer to make the revisions. So I'm not sure what your next hearing dates are off the top of my head.
We have April 23rd, May 7th, May 14th.
Could we continue to May 7th?
You may.
Thank you.
Okay. I move that we continue the hearing on 30 Pine Lane to May the 7th.
Second.
Okay, Bob?
Aye.
Eric?
Aye.
Elise?
Aye?
Janet?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Cheryl?
Aye.
And I say aye.
You can't vote.
I can't, I abstain. I'm so used to saying aye.
Yes.
Thank you very much for your time today. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. Okay, Catherine?
Okay, next is the vote to appoint Karen Latin as representative to Community Preservation Committee.
So Karen has been serving very well, representing us on this committee for the past 3 years, and she has indicated that she is willing to continue. So I am going to.
For which we're incredibly grateful.
Yes.
Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
for
Unless
representing us.
there's a question or an objection from anybody on the commission,
Absolutely no objection.
I will make a motion that we appoint Karen Latin as the Conservation Commission's representative to the Community Preservation Committee.
Second.
Oh, I have to do it. So we'll take the vote. Cheryl?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye.
Janet?
Aye.
I say aye. Eric?
Aye.
And Bob?
And a resounding aye.
And I abstain.
Resounding.
And
Now,
I think we only have one more
one more motion.
motion to the meeting, and I vote that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Cheryl?
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Janet,
Aye.
Elise.
Aye.
Eric,
Aye.
Bob,
Aye.
and I say aye. Thank you, everyone.